All right, guys. So the Packers just made two roster moves. They just released two separate players, and this was just put out a couple minutes ago by the Packers themselves. Definitely a surprise here. The Green Bay Packers released wide receiver Amari Rodgers and running back Kylin Hill. General manager Brian Gutekunst announced the transactions Tuesday. Rodgers was originally selected by the Packers in the third round, 85th overall of the 2021 NFL Draft, and played in 26 regular season games with one start and one postseason contest. Hill was originally drafted by the Packers in 2021 in the 7th round and played in 10 games in 2 seasons. So as I just said, this is a big surprise to me. I didn't expect either of these players to be released in the middle of the season. And yeah, I guess I'm just going to have to eat crow in the whole Amari Rodgers thing. Now, I never said he was a good punt returner, nor did I think the Packers should have him back there. Now, when he was a rookie and they wanted to try him back there, see what he had, understand. But going forward through even last year, and then of course definitely into this year with a new special teams coach, I didn't understand them putting him back there at punt return. They were just putting him in a position where he really wasn't able to succeed because he wasn't a good punt returner. I always thought Amari Rodgers had much more value on the offensive side of the ball as maybe a motion guy, a bubble screen guy, maybe even some work out of the backfield as a hybrid type player, kind of like they used Ty Montgomery a couple years ago. And ironically, Amari Rodgers saw the same exact fate as Ty Montgomery, fumbles on a special teams play and is off the team the next. So again, I was wrong about Amari Rodgers. I thought they would at least keep him through this end of this year, try to use him on offense. Obviously, the special teams wasn't working. He got benched last game after yet another fumble, I believe his 5th fumble on the year, which is just absolutely ridiculous that they kept putting him back there at punt return. I thought maybe we'd see a little bit more of him on offense after this. No more punt return because he did get some snaps on offense this year, and I thought he looked pretty decent. Now, the Packers decided to move on from him. Another team will likely claim him just based off the fact that he's a 3rd rounder from a year ago, and other teams might be intrigued by, his potential there and an offense, which I think he could be a decent player at doing certain things on a certain offense. But obviously the Packers don't see that anymore. And it's a shame because Brian Gutekunst just a year ago, spoke so highly of Amari Rodgers to the fact where they said they were even thinking about taking him in the 2nd round over Josh Myers. So it's crazy how 1 year of just putting him at punt return with a plethora of mistakes makes them release him in the middle of the season. I don't know if it's just a scapegoat type of thing where they just wanted to cut ties with Amari Rodgers just because all of what has happened on special teams and all the negativity that surrounds him with, the coaching staff, the fan base. And there also could be a reason why Amari Rodgers hasn't been on offense. I know, obviously, if this dude was a next level talent, he would find his way onto the offense. And he did start to get more snaps this year than he had last year. I think last year he only had 8 targets, 4 of which with Jordan Love and 4 of which with Aaron Rodgers. And he did have a few drops. And this year he looked better on offense. I'm not saying this guy is a coveted starter at slot wide receiver by any means, but he did look like he was improving on offense. So I thought this is a little bit early to cut ties on Amari Rodgers. Now, if they were to cut him at the end of the season, next offseason, or trade him, I'd be like, all right, that kind of makes sense. But to cut him in the middle of the season on an already really thin wide receiver room. Now, Randall Cobb should be returning this week, but who knows if we'll be able to stay healthy. Just seems a little odd to me, but hey, the Packers did it. So again, I was wrong on Amari Rodgers. I wish they would have kept him around a little bit longer, but they chose not to. And this really just continues this streak of horrible 3rd round draft picks by the Green Bay Packers. It goes back to Ted Thompson, but it seems like every single 3rd round draft pick never does anything and is off the team in a couple of years. If we look at this chart here, when the Packers did trade up to that 85th pick to select Amari Rodgers, 2 receivers off the board after which were Nico Collins, who's having a good year in Houston. And if we go down the list into the 4th round, we see Amon-Ra St. Brown, who of course we know how good he has been on the Detroit Lions. So again, just a miscue there in terms of drafting. If the Packers were to draft either Nico Collins or Amon-Ra St. Brown, these receivers may be starting right now in the Green Bay Packers. So if we go down the list of 3rd rounders for the Green Bay Packers for the last 12 years, we see Sean Ryan this year, who hasn't had a snap yet, but obviously, the book is not written yet on Sean Ryan. And then we see last year Amari Rodgers, obviously. 2020, Josiah DeGuara, having a lot better of a year this year, so I don't think he's finished yet. But then we go down to Jay Sternberger in 2019, who got cut pretty much early. Then we go down to Oren Burks in 2018, who was, didn't play up to his potential there in the third round. 2017, Montravius Adams, same thing. 2016, Kyler Fackrell had like one decent year, but never really, of course, played up to that third round. Then in 2015, Ty Montgomery, pretty similar to the whole Amari Rodgers thing that just happened. I was a big Ty Montgomery guy. That's why I think I liked Amari Rodgers, the potential of the versatility, backfield type of guy, slot gadget guy, motion guy. So I think that's why I did like Amari Rodgers, because I was a big Ty Montgomery guy. Then we see 2014, Kerry Thornton. He was a complete bust. Richard Rodgers was decent, but again, not a third-round talent type of guy. He did have his moments, though, definitely. 2013, they didn't draft a third-rounder, and that's what they should be doing. 2012, same thing, no third-rounder. Good there on them. And then 2011, Alex Green, running back, complete bust there in the third round. And the last really good third-rounder was all the way back in 2010 with Morgan Burnett. And then moving on, the Packers have also released Kylin Hill, which, again, is probably more of a surprise than them releasing Amari Rodgers. You know, I understood if the Packers were to release Amari Rodgers, I'd go, okay, it wasn't a complete out-of-left-field type of thing. But Kylin Hill I am surprised with, because he just came off IR with a torn ACL and even had a carry against Detroit, one carry for 7 yards. And he played 23% of snaps on special teams. And then last week, he played 17% of snaps on special teams. He played no snaps on offense last week against Dallas. But I feel like Kylin Hill was a good third running back, and I'm really confused by this release here. I don't know, maybe if he looks completely different after this ACL and they just don't like what they see in him, or maybe he couldn't really get it back into the offense and the plays and the playbook. I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but I really liked Kylin Hill as that third guy, especially if someone like Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon gets hurt. I feel like he could fill in. So the Packers are going to have to sign a third running back, whether that's going to be someone like Patrick Taylor or Tyler Goodson off the practice squad, which I'm in love with Tyler Goodson. I think he's an amazing player. So if that's the case, I like that. But I like Kylin Hill a lot. So I'm really confused by them releasing him, but they did decide to cut Kylin Hill. But yeah, guys, a little bit of a shock this morning. Didn't expect this to happen on a Tuesday morning, but it did. Again, I was wrong on Amari Rodgers. I still think he could be decent on an offense, especially in the Matt LaFleur system. But obviously the Packers do not see that, and he is now a free agent. And again, with Kylin Hill, that is another shock. Did not expect the Packers to cut him so early. But again, they decided to. That about does it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.